Hey, this is Sandy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athletic trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase it all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine.
Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner. This story episode is basically going to that athletic season from hell.
You mean the one where everyone's hurt?
Yes, the one where you have to question yourself, are we going to be able to play this game?
The one where if you were in professional sports, you'd be losing your job.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So this one was actually a suggestion by Rachel L., and it is about when benches are thin.
Ooh, and you know what? I feel like a lot of ATs know this because of either post-COVID or because of COVID.
So you know what? When I started gathering stories for this and prompting stories, I totally did not even, COVID didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah. That anytime I think of the bench is thin, I just think of the year that I had, literally the first year we competed after COVID. And I was just like, everyone's hurt. It's COVID's fault.
Yeah, I have a couple short stories to share about that. We do have a couple of listener stories about that, but we'll start with just this one that starts with my first year as a college AT was a train wreck. Oh,
okay. I mean, well, welcome to the profession right there.
Do you want to read it?
Yes, this one's by Audric W. My first year as a college AT was a train wreck. The coach didn't believe in strength and conditioning. So, like clockwork, every 2 weeks, a season-ending injury occurred. ACL, dislocated knee with ACL, meniscus, PCL, grade 3 ankle sprain, 2 pregnancies. I didn't see that one coming. Ovarian cyst surgery, and a broken arm. Essentially, I was practicing with the team. We obviously instituted some injury risk reduction and strength and conditioning. I learned lots about rehab and how effective group rehab can be when they all have common goals. Yeah. You know what? I've seen what a lack of strength and conditioning can do, and that is exactly how it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. You don't realize, like, a lot of people don't realize how important strength and conditioning is just to injury prevention, let alone performance.
Right. I mean, I think it also depends on if you have a good strength and conditioning coach.
Yes, of course. That is.
Because sometimes, like, the coach will do the strength and conditioning. And if the coach is just like, hey, we just need to lift.
Lift big, bro. I mean, come on. We all see our football coaches tell the guys they just need to lift big. No paying attention to form.
Yeah, that's where the injury prevention comes in.
Yeah, right there.
So I figured that with this topic of thin benches, we're going to see some forfeits.
Yes.
So Nicolette M, our MVP.
MVP Nicolette.
She said, there was one basketball team that traveled 3 hours to play in our tournament. After their first game, half of their team got injured. Oof. A dislocated shoulder, a panic attack, and possible radius fracture. Our athletic trainers had to recommend they drop out of the rest of their tournament due to lack of players. Oof. And they did. Their coaches were like, yeah, we were thinking the same thing. And they literally left immediately.
Oof, that hurts.
Yeah.
You know what? We had to forfeit because we just didn't have enough players.
When?
This was, so where I was at, we didn't compete during COVID. Mm-hmm. So our first year of competition was a 2021 season. So fall 2021, starts out women's soccer, right? Mm-hmm. Decimated with injuries. Pretty much the whole year we worked with about 13 athletes. Now, if you're familiar with soccer, you only play 11. We didn't have many subs, and there was actually one game where about 3 of the girls got in a car accident because they were all in the same car. 3 concussions right there.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize they all...
Yep. They were all concussed from the car accident.
Shoot.
With the game coming in like 2 days. Shoot. Yep. We had to forfeit that match because we only had 10 girls.
Wow.
And the team was already pretty beat up, so it's like we're not going to go shorthanded.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Let's just say I'll never forget that year.
Yeah, man. That's nuts.
Yeah. No, I have never seen anything like it.
That
And I really
sucks.
do think it was COVID. Just
That gave them the concussions?
well, no, just set the tone for that year. We had like that year, I think I had 5 knee injuries, 4 of them were ACL. One was a significant MCL that she couldn't make it she didn't make it back for the rest of the year. And I just, that lack of just an athletic season, I think just took its toll.
I remember how much you had a lot of knee injuries.
Dude, I'm never going to forget that. That was brutal.
So I have a story about pre-COVID forfeits and just lack of.
Oh, I know this one. I know. This is a good one.
So when I was at the high school, I worked at a private high school. So I only had to deal with football, basketball, and cross country. I had a couple other sports that I didn't really attend.
Now, when we say football, what kind of football?
8-man football. And the reason why is because, I had a roster of like 20.
Yep. Which, it seemed like your team / the teams that you played, there wasn't just offense, defense. Everyone played. Both sides.
I mean, I think that's how 8-man works.
Yeah, probably. Because, you don't have a big enough team to begin with if you're doing 8-man.
Yeah. So we played a team. It was our homecoming, which I felt so bad about. Of course, like for homecoming, you pick a team that you're gonna like crush, right?
Yeah, you can't lose homecoming.
We picked this team that literally some of the kids, they were telling me, had just signed up, like they had never been to a practice yet, and this was their first game.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And we're not talking touch football. This is still tackle.
These kids were not ready. Our team was not good. Like we had a negative record.
Yeah, you did.
And we just literally crushed these kids to the point.
Literally crushed them.
I was on their sideline more often than ours, which I'm sure any athletic trainer can relate to when you have a busy game. But I don't remember all the specific injuries because, man, 8-man football kept me so busy. But I did have a kid whose rib was unstable.
Oh, that's brutal.
And so when he would breathe in, it would, I don't know, sublux, or it would move somehow
I guess so,
under my hand. And then when he'd exhale, it would like move back.
So weird.
It was so weird. And this kid was
you
like,
saw a lot of crazy things.
I did. And the coach was like, call 911. And I was like, no, it's like, we're not going to call 911 for this. And I was like, if you really feel uncomfortable, you can call 911, but like, like this situation's under control. We don't need, this kid does not need to be transported. Like,
I would say if you were that concerned, you could just take him.
Yeah. And so then essentially, I don't remember how many kids they had brought, but they couldn't, at halftime, they couldn't have enough for 8-man.
Nope.
So they just, at halftime, they were like, okay, we're done. And they took the kid with the rib, and I was like, thank you. I didn't want to deal with that anymore.
Oh my God. That's bad.
Yeah.
When it has to be during the game.
Yeah. And I was like, thank goodness I've worked at this game enough for more than a full game.
See, that's the unexpected surprise that never happens to the ATs where, oh, it's halftime, we're done? All right. Let's go home. And mind you, it's high school, so that's a Friday night.
Yeah. And I mean, I still had a long drive home, but.
Yep. But for the average AT, getting out early on a Friday night, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. All right. You want to talk about lots of injuries in one game?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm trying to think if I've had something like that, but I'm not sure. I'm ready to dive in.
You have.
Probably.
I feel like you haven't worked team sports a lot as much as you've worked like individual events. Like you're now like a team sport guy, but
I'm
like
a team sport guy.
But like a majority of your career, you've been doing
individual sports.
Yeah.
And
so I feel like when you think about it, like, you have so many chronic injuries.
Yes. Yes, track meets are usually the same thing as always. 9 times out of 10. Someone's going to be, by the end of the day, pissed off that they're running the 4x4 and something hurts. That's usually how it goes.
Meanwhile, I'm over here just working.
I was going to say
car
losing
crashes.
Yes, every play. Every play is a car accident.
So you want to read the next one by Caleb?
Yes, this one's by Caleb S. Last lacrosse season, I had to have our coach use up all his timeouts because all 3 of my goalies were injured, and we had to figure out if any of them could return or who would sub in. Our starting goalie was set to return from a 3-week-long concussion and return to play, but got struck in the head during warm-ups, and his more severe symptoms returned, so I decided to hold him out. That's unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
At the start of the second half, our second string goalie went down after saving the ball and attempting to clear. As I evaluated him for a possible ACL/meniscal injury, our third string took the stage. Within maybe 2 to 3 minutes of our third string entering the game, he was out of the goal attempting to snag a loose ball. He took a hard check to the neck and head and was down, and I needed to be on the field. Once I got him off, we were expected to play, but had no one who I was super comfortable sending out.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You have one kid who got struck in the head after just coming back on a concussion.
Again, unlucky.
You have one kid with an ACL meniscus, and then one kid with a head and neck.
I feel like our second string guy was like, tape me up. I can go.
I have a story about that.
Oh, yes. Also, like, I really feel for the third string guy because, like, this is it. Like, this is his chance. He's on the stage now, and 2 to 3 minutes later, done. that's gotta be that's pretty bad.
I was gonna say I have a story about that, but it's the same story.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Our coach called a timeout to give me a chance to think of an option. Our second string goalie insisted he could play, although his knee was buckling a lot. Our first timeout was up, and I needed more time to attempt to tape him and functionally test him, since our third string now had a concussion, as well as our starter. So our coach kept calling timeouts until I was able to basically cast our second string with tape, and he was able to complete the game under an agreement that he would not run out of goal and be strategic with his steps. It was tough, and we were away too, so we didn't even have the comfort of a home advantage.
Of course not.
Thankfully, my coach was really good about helping me out. Worst away game ever.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that. But hey, he did tape him up, and he got him out there.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So I had a... Man, I feel like it kind of follows in the story.
Yes.
I had a football player. I had a quarterback who would not slide. Like, would not slide. And
this kid was good, though.
He was really good. But he also, like, used to play basketball. So, like, and I asked this kid, I was like, dude, why? And he's like, I just want to make plays.
Just wants to, I could just picture, Miss Sandra, I just want to make plays.
He doesn't have a deep voice like that.
Miss Sandra, I just want to make plays.
So anyway, this kid, he's great. Like, he's really good. I admire him. Like, he's really good. But he would just scare me because there were so many times that I'm like, you are going to get hurt. Yeah. And you are a quarterback. Our second string and third string are just not up there. And one of our quarterbacks turned into a receiver. Yes. Oh yeah, a receiver.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway,
wasn't also one of your quarterbacks like a tight end too?
I don't think so.
Not. All right.
So anyway, he finally listens to me. And
this is the irony right here.
He probably shouldn't have. He finally listens to me. He takes a slide straight into some kid's butt and gets a concussion from sliding.
It's very ironic.
And then on top of that, so now he's out.
Did he give you a hard time about that?
No.
Oh, good. I would say watch him come back. See, I slid and I got hurt.
So then our second string went in, and this is also an away game.
Yes.
And he was in for not that long.
No.
He was not in for that long.
No.
Steps weird. No one's around him. Goes down. ACL.
Oh, it gets worse.
Well, it's so sad. Like, he didn't know what an ACL was.
Yep.
And so that was, like, heartbreaking to kind of, to tell him and also, like, watch his realization of, like, oh, I don't know what, like, oh, my knee, can I just go back in?
Take me up.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we went to our third string quarterback.
Yep.
Which actually, honestly, I can't really remember who it was right now, so I don't think anything significant happened.
No. It was a tough year.
After a tough year.
Yeah.
It was a tough year after a tough year because the year before that, we had gone 0-10.
Hey, you guys looked good this year. You could have went 4-0 at the start of the year.
We could have been 5-0.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
Yeah. That's why you play the games.
The year before that, we played 10 games. We lost all of them. And it was also a situation where, like, half the coaching staff had left and half the players had left.
Again, COVID.
And I had just started mid-season, like towards the end.
Yep. You got a lot of kids asking you at that last game, do I have to go back in?
Well, that's also when Coach came up to me and was like, hey, like, we have so many guys injured.
Yeah.
Can we play? Like, are we going to be able to play this next game? And I just started this job, and I'm like, I don't even know this coach. How am I going to tell him no?
No, you have to forfeit this game.
I'm trying to stand here as a female working in football, trying to know what I'm doing, and then telling this coach who I don't know, like, no, that's my first decision as a certified athletic trainer at this institution. Yeah. I'm going to tell my football coach that you cannot play this game. Yep. That is a bold move.
That is a bold move.
I didn't.
No. You guys played the game.
It wasn't as bad as I was thinking. It wasn't as much of a train wreck. Although there were a lot of kids asking me if they could not play.
Miss Sandra, do I have to go back in?
No, you don't.
I think at that point, everyone just wanted the year to be done. Like, let's just finish this year.
Yeah, that's really what it was. A lot of the guys had gone home.
Yeah.
And this was like regular football, not 8-man. This was...
Well, also, too, like, okay, when you're like 0-10, like, once that, like...
And playing a team that was moving on.
Yeah. And you're already down, like, 40-0. Like, it's kind of like, all right, can we just go home?
I had never really been in that environment before. That was different for me.
It's a real Debbie Downer.
Yeah. You want to move into another Debbie Downer?
Yeah, this is thin benches, so.
So Cait G says, this past football season, I had an unhappy triad from a wide receiver, an ACL, MCL, running back, DE, safety, and grade 2 MCL, kicker. All in the same game.
Same game?
Luckily, I have a board-certified physician and PT on my sideline when things get rough. We still got the win, and it was game 8 of the season, and we were on grass.
Oh.
My kids are turf babies since we were one of the first teams to get turf in our area. Most of our injuries this past year happened on grass, unfortunately. At the high school level, grass fields are not maintained well.
I can see that. I can see that not being maintained.
That's what I didn't get at first. I was like, how? I am so lucky now that I have grass. Yeah. Now, granted, there are holes. There are potholes.
Yes.
And I have had kids get injured in the potholes.
Oh.
I have almost personally gotten injured in the potholes.
Bro. All right. So, literally this past soccer season, I traveled to this one school because their coverage was sketch. So I didn't trust that my kiddos would be safe. So I traveled with them, and to say this field was worse than a public park doesn't even explain how bad this field was. I walked across the field. It was like, there's holes everywhere. Like, you would almost think it was like a training area for the military, just shells all over the place. Like, it was terrible.
You know, when we played soccer up at state championship, because of the weather, the field was horrible.
Oh,
because it was so rainy. It was men's and women's state championship for soccer. So both teams were playing all weekend.
Yeah.
Or I mean all 8 teams all weekend. And then the field just got so torn up. And I don't even know how they were keeping their footing, honestly.
Yeah. Well, that's tough.
It was so muddy at the end. Like, it was so muddy. Everyone was so muddy.
About just natural grass. You know, there's a lot of maintenance, and elements could really tear up a field, which then makes it pretty bad. Actually,
our practices do get canceled a lot currently now because of that.
Yeah.
Because all of our fields are natural grass.
Yeah. And you got to have good drainage or they get crushed.
Yeah, we get emails that's like, oh, the left side of the practice field or the south side is like still really soggy from 3 nights ago rain. So stay off the south side of the field. You can use
this side,
the upper 3 quarters.
I work indoor now, so.
I work indoor now. Well, then you're probably feeling the small team effects of women's basketball.
I do. We only have 7.
I feel like that's across the board. Okay, I need to know. Do you guys have small women's basketball teams? Because I feel like all of the colleges around us, including us, have small basketball teams and have been that way for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And I've changed jobs and been at different institutions where still across the board our women's basketball teams have just been small.
Yeah.
Really, really small.
Yeah, I got 7. And before that, they had 8. There was an ACL tear.
Ah.
Yeah. Still, even if they would have technically their full squad, they're still really small.
Part of it's also like ineligibility.
Yeah, that plays a role.
That's something that has been hitting us this year.
That sucks. Because that, like the eligibility stuff, a lot of that, that is controllable. Or it's preventable.
Right.
Just, go to class. Try.
Enroll in class?
Yeah, just please go to class.
That is one thing that is... I think I didn't really pay attention to it as much as where I am now because I feel like, I don't know, it didn't come up as much. But now I make sure to, when I'm communicating, I make sure to tell the kid that they are medically eligible.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And not just eligible because that gets really confusing.
Yep.
And I feel like I've been saying that a lot more now than I ever have.
I always leave the disclaimer, medically, you're good to go.
Yes.
Whatever other stuff you got to do, I don't know. Good luck.
Form 4.
Yeah.
So this next one's by Anonymous.
Okay.
We canceled on average 3 to 4 football games each season at the JV level while I was a part-time at a small rural school. The last season I was with them, they actually canceled JV football altogether about halfway through due to ineligible players. We already had a low turnout. It wasn't unusual for us to start a season with 25 kids and end with 20.
Oh my gosh.
I'm surprised that's not like 8-man.
Yeah.
It was a combo of injured and academically ineligible. Even if we just had 2 injured and 5 ineligible, they'd post the reason as due to illness and injury. Working with a small team is nice because you get to really know the players and there's fewer people to keep track of on the sideline.
Fair.
But I found game days stressful because I felt players may feel like they couldn't vocalize an injury knowing there weren't a lot of subs. Coaches were good. If I said a kid was done for the game or any amount of time, I never got pushback.
That's nice.
That is important.
That's very nice.
That is something, my 8-man football coaches, the best.
Yeah, they were. The whole school, though.
The whole school was great.
They loved you. They even gave her a parking spot.
They gave me a parking spot. That was like, you can't top that.
No, you can't. You don't see that happening at these bit higher levels.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You made it when
you have a
when you get a parking spot. I didn't even ask. They just showed up one day and it was there, and I was like, wait, that's me.
That's legit.
That was pretty cool. So your favorite topic's back.
Oh, see, COVID.
We got a COVID story.
Of course.
You want to read it?
Yeah, this one's by Chris H. Working girls soccer. A quarter of the team got COVID. Another quarter was already hurt and getting rehabbed. They postponed the next game, and the team ended up playing 5 games in 6 days.
Yeah.
What?
Soccer.
Why? Why do we need that? The next week, they ended up playing with 10 for a playoff game. I would say they were more exhausted than anything. Grades also hurt them, but yeah, it was basically a week of treatment. Just try to keep the kids on the field. Okay, so that reminds me. So that terrible year for my women's soccer. Apparently, if we would have won our last game, we actually would have qualified for postseason. And what gets me, all the ladies were pissed off and like, oh, we almost made post. Oh, yeah. And I was like, guys, you do realize that last game we had a torn ACL and 2 concussions. We wouldn't even been able to play the next game.
So we literally had so many concussions this fall that we pulled in a specific concussion doctor who we could refer to.
Yes.
Instead of just referring out to our normal ortho, like we got a concussion specialist because we have so many.
Which is good though.
Oh yeah, it's great because they're like part of a concussion like rehab center.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty dope.
We send them all of our complicated cases.
That's awesome.
But not only that, but my co-head and I put together a 1-page Scat 5 just because we were printing so many.
Oh man. That
we were like, we need to fix this. We need to not keep a whole tree with us in our kit.
That's true.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
100%.
It became a joke. Like my co-head would come back and be like, guess how many I had today.
Got another one.
We're like, dreading.
Yeah.
Dreading telling coach.
I know, that's tough.
Or I'm like, please, symptoms, just go away.
Please.
Go away so I don't have to deem it a concussion.
Please just feel better.
And they weren't like even just like minor either. Like there were some that were out for a long time. And complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, it was something else.
Yeah.
So this next one's by Anonymous.
And more COVID.
This was a combo of injuries and COVID outs.
Of course.
So this one's men's basketball.
Okay.
This person said, we had a men's basketball roster of 17.
Okay.
We played our rival school with only 8 players.
Dang.
2 concussions, 2 smaller injuries, and 5 return to play protocols for COVID left us with no choice but to only play with 8.
Man.
Travel roster was also only healthy people, so there was no threat of spreading any more germs than necessary. Thankfully, we only lost by 24.
Oh, good. That's it. It could have been worse.
It truly was a week from hell trying to keep track of my concussion and COVID return to plays, do rehab, and keep the healthy ones in good shape. Which, by the way, just keeping track of COVID return to plays is a week from hell.
Yeah. That one's
I never want to relive that.
Yeah.
One of the concussions was actual second of the season for that athlete.
Oh, no.
I know. I had a grade 2 MCL and a fresh ankle sprain that happened the day before the game.
Oof.
All return to play COVID protocols were standard except for one who had extra cardio precautions. There were so many checklists, symptom check-ins, and communication with coach. Coach was not happy about the length of return to plays,
of course
respectfully, and was trying to work around and skip days to try to get people back by the big rival game, and I told him absolutely not. In the end, we lost that game, but we won the conference tournament and made it to the D3 tournament. It all works out in
There you go.
end.
And guess what? I bet Coach thought you were a genius.
I actually had a kid who had a concussion.
Uh-huh.
Actually hid the concussion. And then
Oh, that's fantastic.
ended up like just started bawling during meetings. So his coach came up to me and was like, there's something wrong with this kid. Can you check him out?
Yeah.
And then...
Good on the coach.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when it's that obvious...
Yeah.
He was like, he was unprovoked and like, this is out of character. And then the kid scored really poorly on all my concussion tests.
Uh-huh.
And so then I sent him to doc and he also agreed concussion. And, we went through an extended return to play.
Yes.
Like, it took a while. And I think it's because the kid hit it first.
Yeah, of course.
And then kept playing. And then, man, this kid was not looking too good. Finally.
I remember this, yeah.
Finally. He had gotten back. And his parents even bought him a helmet.
Oh, like the skull cap thing? Right.
Well, the skull cap, but before that, he had his own helmet that had like some... I mean, I know helmets don't prevent concussions, but
it was advertised.
I was not about to like tell his parents that.
Yeah.
Like take that up with his parents.
Yeah.
But like the whole front of it, like was supposed to do something to protect your frontal lobe, and I don't know, it was fancy looking, and I don't know, they probably spent a lot of money on it, and he actually got the skull cap approved to play in it during the game.
Interesting.
And then that game, I think it might have even been like first half. It was a while back, and just got hit, I don't know, the wrong way or something, and another concussion.
Yep. That was a big lesson that helmets and skull caps do not prevent concussions.
No. That one was also like, he was getting pretty angry. That wasn't like how he presented the first time.
Yeah.
And so I actually took my student and I was like, you need to not stand so close to him.
Yeah.
You need to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You need to get out of the way. All right. So speaking of sicknesses, we actually
Nice segue.
have a non-COVID sickness.
Okay.
Which I feel like is kind of on my mind sometimes.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, if everyone's eating the same food.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that before. I haven't had it like team-wide, but I've had like multiple athletes on the same team. But also, again, track. It's like 5 teams within one team. So, like, I hate to say it, but the jumpers are not hanging out with the cross-country kids. So whatever the jumpers eat, if they all get food poisoning, it's probably not going to hit the distance kids.
I guess if you're going to go out, you might as well go out together.
Yeah.
So Audric W also said, I had a stomach virus go through so many guys on a minor league baseball team that the pitchers had to play position player spots.
Oh, no.
They did not do so great. My starting pitcher, who just came back that game after being drilled by a line drive with a massive contusion, got hit with a line drive that game in the same spot. So it was a mess.
Oh, my gosh. That poor guy.
That just reminds me of last baseball season when one of our pitchers, we were literally winning like 25-2. And so we're just like putting people in, right? And one of our pitchers was up to bat and he gets a freaking home run and everyone was screaming, that's my pitcher.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it's hard because all the baseball ATs out there and baseball fans know pitchers aren't athletes.
Ooh, shots fired.
I'm just
also,
saying,
you're a pitcher.
I am, and I would probably agree with that. I'm just saying, if you work in baseball / like baseball, that's always the joke. All the position players see them, and they're just shagging balls in the outfield. They throw.
I just have one piece of advice for everyone, and it's just don't ever play catch with a pitcher, a former baseball pitcher, and an orange.
Yes.
Because
it's not because of me, though.
Because when you catch the said orange, it will explode.
Yes.
and spray citrus everywhere.
See, I'm nice when we play catch.
Yeah.
But when I play catch with my buddy, sometimes I'd mix in a slider and you get all mad. Stop throwing that.
All right, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What's worse, a bunch of players getting smaller injuries or a big injury to one or two players on a team?
That's a tough one. I almost think the big one, because I think smaller ones, it's manageable. I can work with it.
I guess it's not. I guess I didn't really specify like smaller injuries that kind of are limiting.
Still, I can work with it. Big injuries,
right.
That's, yeah. Right? Like, you can guarantee that person with the ACL tear, that year's gone.
Okay, big injury to one or two players, and the rest of the team is perfectly healthy.
Oh, I'll take that one. I'll take that one.
Really
perfectly healthy.
Really taking one from the team, right?
Yeah. Like, if you're talking perfectly healthy, yeah. Because that's still a good success. I think they did a study where you could factor in about a quarter of your team will be hurt. And that's like normal. Mm-hmm. So if I could just have one person, maybe two, that are out for the year, but everyone else is perfectly healthy, statistically, that's a pretty good year.
Of course, you're going to answer that question with numbers.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
So I actually put this up on our Instagram story, and we got 37% of people were saying that a bunch of players getting smaller injuries would be worse, and 63% of people said a big injury to one or two players.
I think having the smaller ones it's a little more manageable. You know, yeah, they may be limited, but there's probably some people who are still somewhat functional to be out there.
So we have 2 submissions of a big injury to one player.
Let's do it.
So for Maggie B, she said, I had an injury my first year out of undergrad, and it was to an athlete that both of his parents worked at the university and his grandparents were alumni and proud donors to the university.
Okay, here we go.
It was an ACL injury, and it was my first major injury and the first time having that experience with an athlete as a certified athletic trainer. I asked her, like, oh, how did they take that?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of, like, stakeholders.
That is. It's a lot of pressure.
She said they were fine. I mean, everyone was sad and upset that the kid got hurt, but ultimately they were just glad he was getting the best care and was going to be taken care of.
That's nice.
Yeah. That is tough, though.
Yeah.
Especially, like, with someone with so much
investment into the school.
That was one time I had a kid who got a concussion, and he was going to be playing the next game. Was going to be playing up against his former coach.
Oh, dang. I know. Those ones always tough.
And then also I had a kid who got an ankle sprain, like real bad. And he couldn't suit up to play against like his nephew he was a receiver and his nephew or someone, his nephew or cousin was a corner.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I remember you telling me that.
I was like, dang. That's probably the only time you'll get to do that.
I know. That's such a bummer.
Yeah. So another big injury. This one's kind of scary.
Okay.
You want to read it?
Yes, this one's by Anonymous. Last Friday, we had a women's hockey player taking a legal check, getting 2 fractures in her spine. This was in the first period, so the rest of the night was tainted with the scary image of spine boarding her and getting her to the ER for immediate surgery. The scariest injury I've seen so far. She had numbness and tingling in one of her hands, but we moved her arm back to anatomical position and that went away. Point tender in the neck, but she had her helmet off, so we couldn't poke around a lot. There were 3 certifieds and I think 4 students to help. I wasn't there for the hit. The head AT and students mostly took care of it when I got to the rink. Luckily, it wasn't too complicated. When she got to the hospital, though, it was around 8 or 9 p.m., and she had to stay in the spine board and in her full hockey gear until 6 a.m. when they could do the surgery. That's tough. Mm-hmm. I haven't talked with her since, but yes, I'm sure it was absolutely awful. Her surgery went great, And she's in great spirits, though.
It's a good ending.
I couldn't imagine being on a spine board, let alone in my full gear on a spine board for that long.
Seriously?
Like, that sucks. Man, that's awesome for her to be in good spirits.
Mm-hmm. I mean, also, like, you're so worked up and scared, it's not like you can just, like, fall asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, plus it's a minor thing, but, like, some people can't fall asleep laying on their back.
Oh, true.
So, like, I couldn't imagine just being stuck in that position for that long.
Right.
Like, holy smokes.
But it's so true, like, we'll have the rest of the night tainted with a scary image of spineboarding. I mean, it really does affect the team.
100%. Like, how can you want to play?
Right.
After
like
seeing...
What's the difference between her and me?
Yeah. After you've seen a teammate, a friend, go through that and have a situation that could actually, like, literally affect your life going forward.
Mm-hmm. So this next one's by Hannah C. She said, I work college wrestling right now, so the flow of injuries is constant.
I can see that. Okay.
Depending on tournaments or who they wrestle in rankings, we can have a lot of injuries that keep them out for a few weeks, and the second string will replace them.
Okay.
Those kids can get injured, adding to the injuries, so it's a cycle of getting injured, staying healthy, or re-injury. I think the only time everyone is healthy is when they all come back from summer. We're all friends, like with the coaches, so I just talk to them daily for reports. It makes it super easy.
Nice. That is tough when it's literally just that, like, kind of like revolving door, like healthy, hurt, healthy, hurt, healthy, hurt.
Mm-hmm. I know sometimes I'm like, okay, when did you get hurt? And they're like, well, it was like 3 years. Okay, no. When did you re-irritate it this last time?
Yeah. Yeah, that one always gets me when they're telling me oh, well, it hurt. I'm like, no. What brought you in today?
Right.
Why now?
We can get in the rest later.
Yeah.
But
why now? What happened now?
So it also brings up a good point of how do you communicate injuries?
All right.
And I think for me, it depends on the coach.
It does. It really does, yeah.
I wish that it was just like, okay, everyone is like this, but I know that not everyone is, it's not one size fits all.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out for my coaches.
I mean, you also just kind of started with them.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out what's going to work. And also just with the multiple teams and my day, like how am I going to effectively, something that I can commit to giving them injury reports.
Right. So Amanda M. said, we had multiple teams in this situation where most of the team was injured. I have a Google spreadsheet of return to play progressions shared between myself, my coach, and our AD for each team. According to our technology office, it is HIPAA compliant.
Nice.
We've also had a master sheet with all teams on it that was shared with the school nurses. I don't know how else we would have kept organized without technology.
Nice.
Which this is actually something that I love, the Google interface. Actually, we're using Google right now for the podcast.
Yes.
But our school doesn't have Google, and I will probably the places that I want to work do not have Google as an interface.
Yep.
So what I found out, because I had been using Google, but I looked into making it HIPAA compliant, is actually you need to find out if you have a signed BAA agreement.
Yes.
And essentially you have that most of the time if your school or institution has like the suite and everything. But if you're not affiliated with them, then you most likely don't have a agreement.
And the reason that's important is because it means Google can't like see your stuff.
Right.
Which makes it HIPAA compliant.
Right. So it's just basically like within the whoever you share it with.
Yes.
I mean, we use Microsoft, and Microsoft has pretty cool things too, but it's just a little bit different.
You're just a Google fan.
It's just very easy. And it's nice because it makes it live. Like you can update things live. I've made documents that I update and I give coach a link.
Yeah.
And when I want coaches to check it, I'll just send them the link and say, here's the...
Yep.
Instead of me copying and pasting.
Yep.
Although what I have been doing though, last season I had a live document with injuries, and every day I would copy and paste the live document,
yep.
like the updated version, and put it in email. So that way I had, even though like you can see the changes, obviously I'm not sure if someone's viewing it unless I am looking at it at the same time and it says there's another viewer, but also because then I can look through and see on exactly what day I changed things without having to go through like see changes and all that. It's kind of nice. It's like, okay, when did this person actually come to me with this groin strain?
Yeah.
Even though that probably should be in sportswear.
You know, it's somewhere. It's documented. It's better than nothing.
Right. Maggie B says, I send an injury report, a treatment log, text updates, and do in-person communication with my coaches. Back in my first couple of years, I worked primarily with like 10 sports and teams. Currently, I only work with 2 coaching staffs.
Nice.
It's just a lot of attention to detail, planning, and time management. A few tips. It is just really maximizing the time I had to sit and do paperwork. I had an iPad I went around with and documented treatment so I could enter it on my treatment log and injury report at practice. And just really communicated both via text and in person with any updates.
Nice.
Which I actually really like that idea. I also have an iPad now that I could totally do this with. Yeah. And I actually went to someone else's ATR and they were doing this. And I was like, man, that's actually pretty genius.
It's a genius idea. It's a good idea. You know, some of the EMRs that have that capability where the athletes can like sign in. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem though. They mess it up and they mess up my EMR.
Who?
The athletes.
No, you are entering it.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, some places, like, they have the student athletes do it, which is convenient because then, like, hey, they're kind of doing the documentation for you. Uh-huh. They mess it up. They create new injuries without being an injury.
Oh, the treatment?
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah, doing the treatment log. They create new injuries. I'm like, oh, dude, it's not, you're not in there for that. Or, like, they don't know what they're doing, so the treatments are off. It's a good idea in theory. But execution, the student athletes, sometimes they don't know what's going on.
I mean, they're there to be an athlete.
Yep, they are.
How do you usually send out your injury reports?
Right now, currently, by word of mouth. I just go up, talk to the coaches, or text them.
I feel like in person is just like, it is so much easier.
Yeah. I like to do email and talk to them. Mm-hmm. So I like to do both because then one, it's written. Mm-hmm. Because I love it when coach is like, oh, I didn't know that. Actually, coach, send you this email. So you did know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I like to do both. It's just right now I'm still trying to figure out the flow of how to do it with my coaches. Mm-hmm. So it's right now currently just word of mouth. And or text.
I'm trying to figure out how to transition seasons because obviously football's a different beast. Football, I did daily injury reports, and then weekly I would walk over and talk about the injury report with the coaching staff.
Oh, that's cool.
And we would just like, okay, who do you need? Which of these do you, because I would project out if they were ready for the game. And then I'd be like, okay, like, do you need this person, or can we take a little bit more time with them? Yeah. Or I'm kind of like on the fence with them. Can I modify their practice on like this, or, some of that, all that negotiation stuff that's kind of fun.
100%.
You want to read our last one?
Yes, this one's by Anonymous. In the D1 collegiate setting, I over-communicate. Oh, absolutely, 100%. You have to over-communicate. That's just how it goes. If it's something significant, I email, call, and talk in person. If it's something minor, I leave it to my report. Injury reports multiple times a week. I will walk 2 weights or before practice, talk to the coach on who's coming up, what's new progress, etc., and explain further in detail on specific kids. I'll text/call daily with who's doing what that day in practice, basically discussing at least 2 to 3 times a day in some way or another throughout the day. Oh, 100%. That's literally all it is. Yeah, if it was something significant, it would be emailed. I would actually go to the office and talk to the coach just to give them a heads up so they're not surprised, because if they see it in an email, that's when the panic starts to set in, and I need to sit there and soften the blow that, hey, your top runner is out this week.
Right.
Because that's will not go over well in an email. So, yeah. So, yeah, no, I get it. I hear that. Usually that's, yeah, if it was something really significant or definitely an athlete that they're expecting to contribute in the world of track, it would be someone who's going to score. That's a I need to talk to you.
Right.
Conversation. So, no, Anonymous hit the nail on the head there.
Actually, this also brought up a good point of how I structure my injury reports too. Is the top section, well, it's sorted by position.
Okay.
And then the top portion is just generic, like, injuries.
Yeah.
And then the bottom portion, I write minor injuries to keep on radar.
Yeah.
And so they're still on there, but they're not flooding the top with like, okay, because then if they just need to read like the most important, the bulk of it,
yeah,
they can just read the top portion, and then the smaller, like, there's like a hamstring bug in this person, just keep an eye on it.
Well, that's why, like, a lot of times, like, my injury report was also kind of like a treatment log. Like, if someone came in and they're like, oh, this was tight, or oh, this was kind of bothering me today, but it wasn't like, you know, is that kind of threshold where, like, okay, like, this isn't going to necessarily limit you right now, but it might. Mm-hmm. I would include that on the injury report, so then it's not a surprise to the coaches. Mm-hmm. Because then what would happen is probably like the next day they would try and hold it, like, the kid would be like, oh, well, I can't do this. And the coach is like, what? Right? So I tried to minimize the level of surprise for the coaches, because then they come in very confused.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. And also the 2 to 3 times a day kind of thing. Sometimes it would be on the same athlete that I already talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'd give them the update. They'd ask their questions. And then by the afternoon, they have more questions, which is good. I'm glad they're asking me questions. But it's just funny that, like, this hasn't changed.
No.
What we talked about.
That's sometimes, like, athletes will come in for treatment and then they'll go to weights. And then they're like, oh, I'll see you after weights.
Okay. Well, and then they'll be like, okay, how about this?
No, I mean, they'll be like, oh, I'll see you after weights. And they come back after weights and I'm like, you can roll out if you want. Like, we did your treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's like something that's like needs multiple treatments a day. I'm like, thanks for coming in. I appreciate your eagerness.
Yes, which is good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. No, that one gets me is when the athletes who you've talked to them, we're all on the same page of their injury. They go to weights. They come back. Okay, wait. How about this? How about
They've been thinking.
Yeah, they've been thinking. I'm like, oh no. Okay, go ahead. Shoot. What you got? And then they'll tell me their game plan. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, there are definitely some times that I've sent some pretty long emails because a lot of our team is injured.
Yeah.
Now, this season, I've done mostly in text and in person.
Nice.
I haven't been keeping up with the whole email, although I think
it gets hard.
You also have to pay attention to your coaches, like which ones are actually going to read an email, open an email before practice.
You know, I remember the coaches wanted it so bad, and I would email them every day. Which, by the way, again, I did, like D1, right? Like, what, you have 1 or 2 sports? It's kind of the expectation that, again, it's the attention to detail, it's the over communicating. That's what they want, the control of everything, like stuff like that, right? So I would send an injury report every day at the end of the day, every day, and the coaches all wanted it. They never paid attention to it.
Yeah, but it's there.
I know. Like, there were some days I, like, forgot to send it. No one said anything. But there's always that one day, like, oh, well, I didn't get an injury report. You never read it.
Some coaches.
Yep, some coaches. But again, at least it's documented. You have it. So if, like, coach is like, oh, I didn't know. Well, technically you should have.
Right. That's what's nice. I mean, for me at least, because I split it up by position, because then each position coach could kind of pay attention to their own.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then it's like, okay, you only have 2 or 3 guys to pay attention to, not the entire list.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's what I did with track. Because again, it's like 5 teams in one. So I'd have,
track is a freaking beast.
Here's the jumpers. Here's the distance kids. Here's the throwers. Here's your sprints. So.
Right. Nice. Do you have any more thin bench stories?
No, it was literally just that year post-COVID. That was a brutal year.
Yeah. I've had shows, like theater shows.
Okay.
Have just.
Oh, that's interesting.
If we have too many people down, they just cancel. There are more canceled shows than you think.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
See, learned something new.
Mm-hmm. It sucks. And
I bet.
They have to write reports on why they didn't go.
Oh, because, I mean, that's money.
Yeah. And that was something that was interesting, because in that position, I would recommend.
Yeah.
And so it was up to the assistant stage manager if, like, what the plan was, what the contingency was, if this person could sub in for this person, or if we had enough people to dance this version.
Yeah.
And
oh, you know what also, like, kind of going back to, like, the benches then, it really, not only just because, like, hey, you know, obviously the workload's going to be a little bit higher because, like, oh, I have all these athletes that are injured. We got to get them back, you know, all that. It also puts a lot of strain on those smaller injuries, because if you have a team that's, you know, really healthy, like, you can get away with, like, all right, this person could probably miss a game or two and they'll be fine. The team will be fine, and this can be better for the student athlete. But man, when benches get thin, man, sometimes you got to be a little aggressive, and you're just like, we're making this injury linger longer than we have to. But, like, what's the alternative, you know? Like, oh, you forfeit, or you put all the other student athletes at risk because now they don't get breaks or subs. Now they're getting exhausted, increased injury risk. It's just thin benches, not it.
No.
Subs are where it's at.
That's going to be the heading of this episode.
Subs are where it's at. I think we should put that on a shirt. Subs are where it's at.
All right.
I think that was a great way to end that bad boy.
So if you guys, I know a lot of you guys think of stories after listening to these. So if you think of a story, you can always email us at atcorners@gmail.com. If you're waiting for another story episode, you can find those prompts on our Instagram stories, usually midweek. And we do every other episode as education or stories. This one's a story episode. So next week, we're going back to our education.
Yes, we are. We're talking about laser.
Which will also be a CEU episode.
Yes.
And then if you want to join our Facebook group, you can at facebook.com/group/atcornerpodcast. It is free to join. There's just one question. It will automatically let you in, where we also post questions of the week, upcoming story episodes. Yep. You can post whatever you'd like. And I think that's it.
Yep. Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.